So that was like a whole new experience outside of photography, like a whirlwind of a time, but it was fun and exciting. I don't know if influencer life is cut out for me.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Artist Date. Today's guest is someone I first discovered scrolling TikTok. And honestly, once you see her work, you really don't forget it. Aidan is a Toronto-based dance photographer who turned a pandemic pivot into a creative breakthrough, building a following of over 35,000 followers on TikTok and racking up more than 2 million views on her videos. What's exciting is that visibility didn't just go viral, it brought real-world opportunities, landing her partnerships with major brands like Samsung and helping her stand out in the competitive world of dance photography. In today's conversation, we dive into how Aidan built her audience from scratch, how social media changed the course of her career, and how she's carving out a lane that's completely her own. If you're curious about growing your creative career, standing out online, and turning passion into dream opportunities, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Let's jump in. I'm so excited to have you on today. I've been such an admirer of your work, and I'm really excited to hear your process and how it all came to be. So before we get started, maybe just share a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Aidan. I'm a photographer based in Toronto. I mostly focus on dance, and I'm trying to incorporate more fashion into my work as of late. Dance photography is my main thing. I've been shooting for about 5 years now since the pandemic started. I was a dancer before everything shut down, and then decided to pick up photography because there was nothing else to do except just sit at home. And so I bought a camera, and then it just kind of happened from there. But that's the gist of my beginnings.
It feels like a lot of people, their career kind of just took off during the pandemic. It's really interesting because it was either like people, it was like a sink or swim moment. And I feel like a lot of photographers, that was like their swim moment, or they really saw this opportunity to do something different, or, you know, just decided to dive in. So that's really neat. And so were you a professional dancer?
I was trying. So when the pandemic came around, I was about 22. So I was just like trying to launch. So I had, after graduating high school, I went to New York for a year and took a 1-year course at the Ailey School. So I was doing like modern. It's a big school, so they let in quite a lot of people, but you still have to audition and all that. So I did 1 year there, and it was a lot of fun, but the style wasn't for me. Like I wasn't necessarily interested in like the classics, like modern and ballet. I wanted to do more contemporary styles. So I wanted to finish the year. And then I came back to Toronto, and I was just teaching dance like young kids and trying to take class when I could. I would do summer intensives, go back to New York, all that. But then just as I was trying to start my own like class series in a contemporary field, everything shut down. Like I was like just on the cusp of like really going for it. And then the pandemic hit, and no one could take class, and I was trying for a while to take class in my basement, rolling into couches, and just didn't work. So it was like a few months of that. And then that's when I decided to pivot into photography.
Yeah, I feel like the pandemic was harder on dance than a lot of other industries, because I was also teaching dance during that time. And I remember we'd have like these squares on the floor, and everyone had to stay in their squares. And we were like re-choreographing dances like 6 feet apart, and then recording them for dance competitions. It was just like a very bizarre time. And actually that's when I shifted full-time into photography. Not that I wasn't doing it full-time, but I was kind of managing both. But it was during that time where I was just like, oh, I can't do it.
How long were you dancing, or were you a dancer for? Like, what did you start out doing?
Yeah, so I actually, I never worked professionally for like as a dancer. I didn't really know it. when I was just coming out of my training, I didn't really know about like the opportunities that you hear about today.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like followed in my sister's footsteps. She was teaching dance, and I actually taught dance for 20 years.
Wow. Really good for you to be teaching for that long. Like I was kind of becoming over it. Like young kids, it's a lot of fun, but it's
Yeah,
taxing and it's hard work. So I
it is
was
hard.
I was yeah, moving on, trying to move on from that, but 20 years, that's really good.
Well, I feel like you're still young enough that you could still pursue like this professional career in dance.
Well, I dabble back and forth between like taking class. It's hard. I just don't have a lot of time. And
Yeah.
that was like my first love was
Mhm.
dance. And photography was always something that I wanted to do as well. But it
Okay.
was kind of on the back burner for a very, very long time. And I
Mhm.
never had the time to dive into it. And so when the pandemic happened, it was the perfect moment to try it. And I
Right.
just never looked back. I thought I would, come back to dance or do a little bit of both. And I just never really did. And so, yeah, it just took over my life, photography. And, but I'm still able to connect with the dance community in my work because of how much dance I photograph. So I don't feel as removed from it as just quitting altogether. I'm
Mhm.
still, a part of the community in a sense. So it's nice in that aspect that I can be in the dance community and not be the one necessarily dancing. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I like to take class. I'll go to ballet when I can, and if I can, muster up the courage to do a workshop here and there, I'll try it. But it's like
Nice.
something I'm scared. I don't know what it is. I'm scared to go back, but
Yeah,
um, yeah, maybe one day.
I totally get that. So when you first started during the pandemic, what were you mostly shooting?
So I started out taking photos of myself,
Mhm.
because I didn't have that we were in the middle of a lockdown, like we couldn't see anyone. So when my camera was delivered, I just started taking self portraits just to learn the basics of my camera. I knew kind of how to use a camera. I took like a photography course in grade 10 at my high school, but that was like very, very bare bones. So um, yeah, I just tried to teach myself how to use it as best I could while shooting myself. And then I think my very first shoot was with my sister, and we were just in my garden, like in our parents' garden, shooting around. And then I when things lifted and we could, socialize outside and it was getting nice. I think this was around like May, June that I started to shoot with some friends, dancer friends of mine. So I did like a few of those, a handful of shoots with friends. I started posting them on my social media, my personal account, which is what my account is still, is was just my personal account. And that's when people started asking me about my rates. Like I didn't even think like I could make money from it. I was just doing it for fun. And yeah, it just came out of the blue. And then I just started super low, charged like barely anything. And once I started to build a decent portfolio, I started to, up my rate a little bit. But yeah, yeah.
So mostly started with self-portraiture and like
Hmm.
photos of your sister, so portraiture, I guess. And then
Yeah.
tell me about your first like dance shoot. How did that come to be?
Can't remember who it might have been. It must have been one of my friends that I had just like asked to do for free for fun. Those first handful of shoots. Somewhere like maybe it was outside. I think it might have been the Bluffs in Scarborough. So like pretty location, not too far from where I'm living actually. And yeah, I don't remember too much. Just that we were like just messing around and seeing, what
Yeah.
we could do. Like I said, I wanted to do contemporary dance, so that's kind of what I was, I think, focusing on, and still do. Um, was like contemporary movement, freestyling. So I think that was the first one that I did.
Hmm.
Somewhere outside. I think it was the Bluffs, but I did a few of them, like I said, with some friends of mine.
I'm curious to know your process when you shoot dance photography or shoot dancers. Do you have them like go through like a count of 8, or like what's your process when you work with them to get them moving and comfortable?
Yeah, it just depends on their experience. I've shot a range of ages and experience levels, so I can give as little to as much direction as needed, depending on the dancer. So if I'm shooting someone, a younger dancer, competitive dancer, then I'll mostly go through poses with them, something that we can like hone in together. But if I'm shooting an older, more experienced dancer or even professional, I'll let them kind of freestyle and just move. We'll start out pretty simple with just arms and low legs, if that makes any sense, but just kind of moving your body through the space a little bit just to get also a bit warm and comfortable. And then if there's something interesting that the dancer did, I'll stop them and maybe like rewind, try it again, maybe tweak something. And we just go like that until the end of the shoot. Sometimes dancers come with like a list of shots that they want to get and poses. So it just also just depends, on the need of the dancer and what they're looking for. I think people come to me because I am experienced in dance and I can give them that direction, that real-time direction. If like we're doing something more technical and their foot's not fully pointed or their knee's not fully straight, I can just be right away. Just say, hey, just straighten that knee a little bit, or, try it this way. And because I have that trained eye. And I've gotten so much feedback that it's really helpful to have that in real time versus like just trusting the photographer to know if it looks good, is a big thing. So,
right.
Yeah.
I would even say that for a dancer, I feel like they are able to relax more and trust you more as a photographer because they know that you know what something should look like. As you know, like dancers very much rely on a mirror and for that feedback from teachers or whoever it may be. And so if they're working with somebody that already has that understanding and knowledge behind them, I'm sure that like, brings down that wall and they're able to trust you more and probably just relax into the experience a bit more.
Yeah, that's the hope, honestly. And being comfortable in front of the camera is number one. I find dancers, it is a more not insecure, but we're just in front of a mirror all day long and we're, scrutinizing every little detail. So when you put a camera in front of that too, it becomes even more, scary sometimes. So to make sure the dancer is super comfortable is like number one for me. Even if it's not a dancer, even just a normal model, like having, whatever subject be comfortable is huge because that you can really tell in the photos too how relaxed a person can be and if they're enjoying it. So that's a big thing for me.
What would you say is most unique about your photography?
Unique. Well, like I said, probably just what I'm able to offer my clients in the moment and like the experience that they can have with me, especially dancers. I direct them. I'm able to, correct them in real time, give them feedback, all that. So probably the experience that I can give clients. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then I try to be as unique with my editing and my work as possible. But I feel like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. If something's not broke, don't fix it. So I do draw inspiration from other photographers, but I try to keep it and make it my own in a way. So
yeah, you have that unique strength of knowing how a dancer should look, I suppose, right? And being able to capture that.
Not just the dancer, how they should look, how they are naturally. I like to be able to capture someone at their most genuine. So when we can find that, like I don't want them to be necessarily posing or doing something that doesn't
too
feel
rigid.
Authentic to them, and they're just trying to put on a look that they had seen on Instagram or something. So I want it to feel like them and their dance style and their unique abilities. So that's also a big thing, is trying to pull that out of the dancer. So
how do you do that?
It takes a bit of time, especially if a dancer hasn't done many photo shoots before. It feels, like I said, very it feels self-conscious to be in front of a camera dancing because you want to know what it looks like. Sometimes I'll bring a mirror over to help a dancer if they're struggling in that sense. but a lot of the time I like to put the mirror aside and have them just be as free and open as possible. And then as I'm showing them how it's looking and they're feeling a bit more comfortable, they gain the confidence throughout the shoot, and then they feel free enough to try something that they wouldn't normally do, and just feel open to it. But finding that authentic movement too, it like actually the dancer moving and not just posing has been is a huge thing for me. So getting the dancer moving is big.
When you're composing a shot, do you typically do you like it from a lower angle or eye level, or what's your process for that?
Most of the time, eye level. I do like to do a range, depending also if the dancer requests a different like look, then I love shooting low and getting like more of a wide shot. That's always fun. I recently had a client that preferred like some shots from more above, so that was cool. They weren't a dancer, but so yeah, it just depends on the person. Most of the time from eye level, but I also like to move around with my dancers as well. I found like I'll be in like a random like squatting position sometimes because the dancer's in like a really cool pose, and so I'm following them there. So I'm like sometimes like mirroring the dancer as they're moving too, depending on what they're doing. Yeah.
What I like about your work too is that you incorporate a lot of color, and I'm curious how you do that. Like, do you plan ahead of time what the colors will be, or outfits? Like, how much input do you give to those dancers?
Not a lot. I used to work at a studio that had a ton of backdrop colors to choose from. So my dancers would often just show up on the day, and whatever they were wearing, we would talk together on what backdrop would look best for them. I do like using a lot of color. I think my early days were just using as much color backdrop as possible. I've shifted a little bit away from that. I still love a good pop of color, but I'm trying to find something more mature. Not that, color backdrops aren't, but I'm just trying to find that range. So it just depends on the shoot. If I'm looking for if I'm doing a creative shoot with a friend, a test shoot, then we'll plan it a little bit more specifically. But for a client, then I'm more open to the direction that they want to take. So I'll often ask them ahead of time if there is a backdrop color that they were looking at, then they can, let me know if there's inspiration that way. But sometimes it's like on the day, okay, we'll do this and it'll look good, and we'll try it out. So just depends on the client too.
Right. And speaking of clients, you've worked with some big names. So Samsung was one. And then was it National Ballet School or
National Ballet of Canada? Just very, very briefly.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell me about that experience. What was that like?
Yeah. So the Samsung was more of like an influencer contract than anything. I didn't do a ton of photography for them. They had hired me to promote their new phone in 2024. So that was at the beginning of the year. And they wanted me to highlight the camera capabilities of the phone specifically. So that's why they had asked myself and a few other photographers for that input and to create content for that. So that was like a whole new experience outside of photography, like a whirlwind of a time, but it was fun and exciting. I don't know if the influencer life is cut out for me, but I'm not going to turn it away if it, comes back around. But yeah, that was the Samsung job, which was a lot of fun. And then the National Ballet, I had been in contact with them about just trying to come shoot some rehearsals. So this was a few years ago, and they had me join them for a rehearsal in studio one day. And I've done a few of their events. So I haven't shot any of their performances or done like a full shoot with them. That would be the dream. I don't think that would happen for a very long time, but it's cool to be able to have that contact with them and just grow that relationship. Hopefully we'll see where it goes, but would love to do more work with them for sure.
Do you find that ballerinas, out of the dancers that you've worked with, are the pickiest?
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? I think it has to do with like their technique, right? Like everything's so
it's so minute. Like the dancer, and I know it like I said, I can tell when like if your knee is not fully pulled up in the arabesque, or if you can wing the back foot a little bit more, I can tell. And so we'll do a couple of shots if that's what we're doing. And then I like to show the dancer quite a lot if they're specifically trained in ballet, because they also know what their body's capable of better than me, even though I can give them technical feedback. They know what their body's capable of. So I like to show them quite a lot how it's looking, and so they can make in time adjustments as well as me giving them feedback. So definitely ballet dancers, I think it just comes with the territory of the style. Yeah.
When you're going into a shoot with a dancer and you're using strobes, is there a certain light setup that you like to do, or do you tend to experiment? I know that there's some like standard dance light setups. I'm curious what you do.
I'm self-taught, so I really just started off experimenting, and I haven't really stopped. I know kind of what I like to do now. I like to have a couple of lights in the space, depending. But yeah, if it's a studio that I'm renting from, I'll use their lights, and I've used a variety of different lights. But I own some Profoto D2s, which are great, but they're
nice.
They're bulky ones.
I use those too. They're super heavy. Yeah.
So I have those. But I experimented with gels quite a bit to create some like colorful highlights on my dancers sometimes. I don't have one specific setup. It just depends on the dancer too. Like, and I'd like to test the dancer quite a bit, like test shots of them in the space, and then kind of just nitpick at the setup from there. But yeah, no one specific one. And I like experimenting with lights. It's a lot of fun.
What type of modifiers do you like to use, or do you find that you pick one up more than the other?
I think I own either the 3-foot or the 4-foot Octobox with Profoto, so I've used that a bit. And I also have their big white umbrella, extra large, maybe.
Oh, yes.
So I have that one too. So between those two, that's generally like the key light that I like to use on the dancer. And then I go from there with any other lights that I have available to me. So yeah.
Yeah. What would be a dream project for you to work on?
Definitely working more with the National Ballet, I think would be really, really cool. Shooting the company, shooting a campaign, but they have their people for that they use. But to be able to do that would be really, really cool. And working with just professional companies around the world, I think would be, the dream. So yeah.
Are there any trends that you're seeing right now in the dance photography world?
Trends. That's a good one. I think harsh lighting is become like a sharp light is a big trend right now, specifically. But I think people are gravitating towards the colorful backdrops, like the seamless backdrops. That's become big in the time that I've started shooting. I mean, that's what I was, learning to do at the start of my career. So that's always been a big thing with dancers is playing with that. So, but I try not to worry too much about what other photographers are doing. I just ran into some fun, like a little bit of pettiness and competition with other photographers in the community. It's difficult because people might think that you're copying them, or you're using a same idea, or poses are also recycled a lot. I mean, this isn't everyone. Majority of the time, a lot of photographers are lovely. So, but yeah, I try to stay in my lane and not worry about too much what other people are doing, specifically in my city. It can be a little bit more difficult if you're doing the exact same thing as another photographer, and it's very, very similar work. You want to create your own style too. So,
right.
That's just been a little bit of a tricky spot for me sometimes, is navigating that. you wouldn't stumble across a photographer and another that are doing the exact same thing necessarily, but
Right.
yeah, there are quite a few, and I think it's growing too. Like the dance industry here is pretty big, especially the competition world in Toronto in Ontario is massive. So there's always a need for dance photographers, and I think that's been growing, which is really really nice to see. As other dancers continuing and doing photography, implementing their expertise and gaining clients from that, which is so good, which is amazing because I didn't have that too much growing up in my competitive studio. So it's really nice to see that that's growing.
Yeah. And since you already have some familiarity with New York, do you ever aspire to go there and do photography?
Yeah, I'll be going there actually in a couple of weeks for just 10 days. But yeah, I haven't been back since before the pandemic. So I'm very, very excited. I'll be doing a full day of shooting at a studio in Brooklyn, and I'll just be bringing a bunch of friends and just playing around in the studio. So just going for fun for this trip, but
Nice.
maybe it can become a thing in the future to go more often.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very excited for that. It's been a while.
That's really cool. And what studio is that in Brooklyn?
It's called Meadow Studios.
Okay. Are
Yeah.
there quite a few, obviously, in Brooklyn?
I
sure.
think so. Yeah, I didn't do too much research into the studios. A friend of mine had sent me this place, and it was like relatively like cheap comparatively to Toronto studios. So
Interesting.
it seemed good. Yeah, and I just booked like a full 12 hours, and then I'll just have like some friends of mine come filter in and out throughout the day, and I'll just be there,
That's awesome.
the whole time.
Yeah. How much post-processing do you do to your work?
Quite a bit. It just also depends on the shoot. If I'm doing like a backdrop shoot with a dancer on a seamless, then I'll use Photoshop to expand the backdrop, clean it up quite a lot. I do my color grading and all that, but yeah, mostly Photoshop. I feel like the editing process takes twice as long as any shoot that I do. I'm mostly in front of my computer all day, but yeah, I like it. I like being creative also with my editing to see what I could do. I don't have a lot of technical experience with Photoshop, so I'm just once in a while I'll experiment and see, what does that thing do, and see what I can try out. So that's always fun.
Yeah. And are you a Capture One or a Lightroom girl?
Lightroom and Photoshop.
Nice.
Yeah. I know you're Capture One. I heard that from another episode.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love Capture One. I used to
what
use
about
Lightroom,
it specifically?
Though. Well, first of all, like the image quality, I feel like there is a difference.
Okay.
I can't even really explain what it is. But when you bring an image into Capture One, it just it processes the image so well, and it's very like crisp, and I feel like they've added a lot of features that are just so helpful, like the masking tools. Like you can mask like pupils, you can mask just the face, you can mask the whole subject, the background. So they're constantly making advancements like that. I've just really come to love working with it. And also they have a cull feature. So
cool.
If you're like have 1,000 images, and you can cull them down super fast because it separates them into groups of likeness. So I love that feature. So I would say like culling and masking, and then the color adjustments, and just the overall like image processing, like the quality of it is just so it's really good. I would highly suggest trying out the what do they call that, trial. I think you might like it. Well, let me know.
Look into it. Yeah. That culling feature sounds really cool. Like it takes so long sometimes to cull through the images.
I feel like that's like the most exhausting part of editing sometimes, is like choosing which one you want to edit.
Right. Well, that's a thing that I actually started to put onto my clients now. Like I'll do a general cull, and then I'll upload proofs with watermarks for my clients to choose from, and then they select the final images to be edited. So that's kind of been nice because I've just gotten feedback from, like I said, dancers. They're nitpicky about what they like on their body. So just to give them a variety of shots to choose from for the final, I think has been pretty popular. So that's how I work now.
And how do you send out proofs?
I use Pixieset. So I export like a low res version out of Lightroom with a watermark, and then I upload to Pixieset. I turn off the download feature so they're not able to download the proofs. And then they can go through on their individual collection and just heart the ones that they want. And then I'll be able to download the file names of just that list, copy and paste it directly into Lightroom, and then I'll just get the full list very easily into Lightroom. And then,
I want to learn more about if you've experienced any struggles and what those have been in your first 5 years of photography.
Struggles, I think a lot of imposter syndrome. I mean, I still struggle with that. Like before every shoot, I'm like, you're terrible. This is going to go horrible. Like, it's not a good voice in the back of my head. I think that's the dancer in me. But yeah, so I think that's been my number one struggle, and also trying to avoid burnout as much as I could. I did burn out a few times over the years. I just overworked myself way too much. It's a good problem to have because that means people want to work with you, but maybe that means I'm just not charging enough. So that's been something that I've been also trying to handle as well, because it's not good when you're, not fully enjoying it and not in it in the moment, because you want to give your client the best experience that they can get. And if you're spreading yourself too thin, that's just that's not a good recipe. So just trying to be more selective and say no has been really difficult, because I want to be able to take on as much as I can and work with everyone that wants to work with me. Like, it's such a compliment. But having to say no has been really, really difficult, and I've been doing more of that in the past year. Just prioritizing what I want and where I want to take my career has been difficult, but a good challenge.
And it is hard to say no, especially when it's something that you enjoy, but it's so important to have that boundary just for yourself, right? Yeah. And what has been the hardest part about navigating in the industry?
I think like knowing that there's a lot of admin work and a lot of outside work that isn't necessarily photography directly, especially if you want to grow a business in photography. I'm sure there's so much extra stuff that you got to take on. And sometimes, I see other photographers that don't necessarily, they just want to shoot and they just want to do that. And building an online portfolio is a lot of work and necessary if you want to gain more clients. And so just doing that extra stuff outside of the studio and outside of shooting, I don't think a lot of people realize. I definitely didn't realize how much work it was going to be. So that, I think, was also challenging in the industry itself, because I'm like, I'm just going to take some pretty pictures and post them, and that's the end of it. And there's so much more to that than you think. So, yeah.
Is Toronto a tough industry to make it in as a photographer?
I felt super lucky because I was able to live at home, invest the money that I had into camera equipment. So I think for someone that doesn't have the resources like that I did, and I felt very lucky to have, it can be difficult. It's quite expensive city. Equipment is expensive. I think it also helped with my dance background to directly, focus in on a niche and have people respond to that. So finding your niche and being of value to people is a big thing, and would come a little bit harder to people that don't necessarily have that that other sort of side work that they could transfer into photography like I did. So I think in that aspect, it can be difficult, but it's a great city for lots of opportunities. It's just also sometimes knowing the right people too. So connections are big, and yeah.
Have any of your images kind of like, I don't want to say like made it big time, but like kind of went viral or had this extra attention online?
Yeah. So I started posting on TikTok, I think a year into starting photography. And so I had a few videos do okay. And then I started shooting more elaborate self-portraits because, like I said, I started out with a self-portrait and I'd never done like a dance self-portrait before. So I set up my camera on a tripod and did a timer and, did a few self-portraits that way with me moving. And those did pretty well. So TikTok and Instagram kind of really loved those shots of myself, and having a catchy caption always works too. So I think most of the time I did dancer turned photographer. And this is what it looks like or something like that. But yeah, people love seeing how the moment looks without editing, without the shot. And then they see the dancer get into the pose and then transition. So people like that one a lot.
Yeah, for sure. How has TikTok been for you? Have you received work from it?
Yeah, I think Samsung found me on TikTok. I can't remember, but yeah, I've had a few clients find me through TikTok itself, which is cool. I haven't really been keeping up with it in the past year. Actually, I've fallen off of it a little bit just because I don't have the time to keep up with it. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. So that's been part of it. But yeah, no, TikTok was really good for creators like in the pandemic, having that outlet to use. And also I learned a lot from other creators on TikTok as well. There's a photographer that was based out of Utah that was doing like more educational videos. And I think that really spurred me on to start and try it myself. So yeah, it's a good platform for people that just want to learn and try and get inspiration. But yeah, I've been away from it for a while. Maybe I can get back into it.
Yeah, this will maybe encourage you or inspire you to get back on there. Yeah. Do you feel like you made any mistakes when you first started out that really kind of shaped the course of your business and style?
For sure. I mean, all mistakes you can learn from, and so I probably made thousands of mistakes, and I just kept like honestly, and because I'm so self-conscious and picky about myself that I just every day I'm making a mistake. Even now, like I'm learning from mistakes, and just trying to push myself more and more. I think trial and error is such a big thing for me because I am self-taught. It was just a lot of that, like trying something. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, let's try something else. So just going through that process over and over and over again, and even still today is how I keep learning.
Yeah. If you had one piece of advice that you could give to somebody that's just starting out, what would it be?
Shoot every day. Shoot as much as possible. That's how I learned, and that's how a lot of people learn is by doing. So that's my number one thing is I think that was big advice that I had seen from probably a TikTok creator is just telling people to shoot as much as possible. And I can just only relay that because it's really big. The shot or a setting is never going to be the same way twice. So you're going to learn something every single time. And so doing that every day, just something little is, it just builds and builds and builds over time, I think would be great.
100%. And even just forces you to try new things. And I feel like every shoot is different. So you're going to walk away learning something new. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
Oh goodness. I've thought about this with a friend. I have a friend in the UK she does these like podcasts, Instagram stories where she just talks into her close friends. So this is a lot of what she's been saying, but I've thought about it too, is like, at what point does the freelancing side of it get too much, and you need to start thinking about doing, other things like podcasting. This is so cool that you're able to have that kind of as a segment of your work. So I'm like, what additional ways can I take photography, education, I don't know, directing. So these are things that I would love to consider for the future, and maybe that's where I'll go. But I don't have a very clear vision of exactly where I want to be. I know the type of work that I want to do, and I'm striving for that. But no specific place. I just want to keep trying to learn and grow and get better. And that's I think the goal.
Where can people find you and get a hold of you?
I'm on Instagram at Aidan.tooth. So my name is spelled with an A, Aidan, .tooth. And then I'm on TikTok at Aidan Tooth Photography, even though I'm not, like I said, I'm not posting very much on TikTok these days. And then my website is just aidantooth.com.
Well, thanks so much for spending your morning with us.
Thank you for having me. I loved it.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. I loved this conversation with Aidan, and I hope it left you feeling inspired to keep moving forward in your own creative journey. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean the world if you subscribed, left a review, or shared it with a friend who might need to hear it. You can connect with Aidan on Instagram at aidan.tooth or visit her website at aidantooth.com. And I'll link everything in the show notes for you as well. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week with another inspiring guest.